Morning all. So this video is about Christmas Carol for Eduqas English Literature Component 2, which is on Monday. And as I've said, we're going to focus on Christmas Carol today. We're going to look at what papers have already been set, what could come up, the sorts of patterns that there are, and hopefully that will cover off all of the things that you are looking at revising this weekend. So firstly, 2017 the question was on ghosts, and then 2018 the question was on Christmas. 2019 the question was on the Cratchits, and 2020 was Scrooge and his change. So you can see that we have a sort of pattern. 2021 was turning points for Scrooge, and I'm just going to remind you that the 2020 and the 2021 papers were smaller papers because those were the ones that were for people that were retaking after being given their teacher assessed grades, which means that we are likely to see those questions being repeated. 2022 was poverty and the poor, 2023 was supernatural, and then 2024 was Scrooge and Christmas. So we've got sort of some generic themes that we see being repeated, and what they do is they use the same kind of topics and change the wording slightly. So we have the supernatural, which has come up with supernatural events and ghosts. We've got the Cratchits and or the poor that have come up twice. We've got Christmas that's come up twice, and we've got Scrooge that's come up several times. So I would be focusing my revision around the character of Scrooge because, of course, he is absolutely central to the novel, and how he changes is part of that. But then I would be thinking about how can I involve some of the other things. So I might want to think about Scrooge and how he changes. I might want to think about Scrooge and the idea of family. I might want to think about Scrooge and his attitudes towards the poor. I might want to think about the ghosts, but how they help Scrooge. I also might want to look at things like Scrooge, if we go back to the idea of poverty, maybe Scrooge and greed and money, or Scrooge's attitude towards the Cratchits. There are things like Scrooge and his emotions. Then, of course, because it's Eduqas, they could totally throw in a brand new theme, something that we've not seen already. So they could have something like death or generosity or hope. But paper 1 was relatively mainstream, so we're hoping that paper 2 will be mainstream-ish. So make sure you revise Scrooge, make sure you've got something to say about Christmas, make sure you've got something to say about poverty and the Cratchits, make sure you've got something to say about the ghosts and the supernatural, and then my key themes for adding into that would be family, something around money if you don't cover that when you do your poverty revision, and then maybe something from stave 4 where it's very much focused on the death of Scrooge, maybe something around death or loss or fear, and that I think would help you cover everything in lots of detail.